Even at night, glowing lanterns floated above the streets, bathing the alien city in red and gold light. The air was thick with strange smells, roasted meat from stalls, sharp chemical fumes from repair shops, and the heavy scent of wet stone after rain. Alien voices filled the air, deep growls mixing with high-pitched clicks, bargaining and arguing in dozens of languages. In the middle of the market, past rows of shining jewelry, cages of exotic animals, and steaming food stalls, there was a shadowed corner. Few people went there, and those who did not stay long. There, behind a metal fence, sat a girl. She was young, maybe 16, with tangled hair falling over her face. She wore nothing, only a thin layer of dust and grime on her skin. Her knees were pulled to her chest, her arms wrapped around them as if to hide from the world. Her bare feet rested on the cold stone floor of the cage. Above her, a small floating sign blinked in alien script. It read, "Unsellable." The other cages around her were full of strange creatures. A scaled reptile with 3 eyes, a furry beast with 6 legs, even a tiny glowing bird trapped in a glass box. Traders stopped too. Look at the animals, pointing, laughing, and bargaining with the alien seller. But when they saw the girl, their faces changed. Some frowned, others whispered, and most walked away quickly. No one wanted her. She sat silent, her eyes half closed. But she was not asleep. She was listening. She could hear the mutters of the crowd. She could hear the seller telling the same story again and again, how she was a failed experiment, too weak to work, too strange to be trusted. How she didn't speak their language, and how she refused to follow orders. Some called her cursed. Some called her dangerous. And yet, she remained, day after day. No food, only a small bowl of water shoved into the cage once in a while. The dust of the market settled on her skin. The alien seller sat nearby, a tall creature with skin like cracked stone and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. It wore a heavy robe and smoked from a pipe that gave off blue smoke. Every time someone asked about the girl, it would smirk and say, "She's useless. No one would buy her. Even if you take her for free, she will only bring you trouble." The market's noise never reached her completely. In that corner, the air felt heavy. Time seemed slower then. One day, the sound changed. The usual mix of alien chatter and footsteps shifted. There was a new sound. Heavy boots, walking with purpose. The steps were slow, steady, cutting through the noise like a drumbeat. The girl lifted her head slightly, her hair falling away from her face. Through the gaps in the cage, she saw him. A man, not an alien. Not one of the strange insect-like traders, nor the tall lizard-skinned guards. He was human. The crowd parted. Around him, staring. Humans were rare here, especially in this part of the galaxy. He wore a long brown coat, worn from travel, and a dark scarf wrapped around his neck. His hair was messy, his jaw covered with rough stubble. His eyes, sharp, gray, and cold, scanned the market as if weighing every detail when he reached her cage. He stopped. The girl looked back at him, meeting his gaze. For a moment, neither moved. The market noise seemed to fade, as if the air between them was its own world. The alien seller noticed him and stood up. "Human," it said in a slow, deep voice. "You are far from home, looking for something to buy?" The man did not answer immediately. He kept his eyes on the girl. "How much?" he asked finally, his voice low but firm. The seller laughed, a dry, rattling sound. "You don't want her. She is broken. A waste of credits. Take a look at the others. I have a fine collection today." But the man didn't turn his head. I asked. He said again, "How much?" The seller narrowed its glowing eyes. "Why? She cannot speak. She cannot work. She is nothing." The girl's fingers tightened around her knees. She did not know this man. She did not know why he was looking at her like that. But for the first time in a long while, her heart beat faster. The seller stepped closer to the man. "If you take her, she is your problem. I will not take her back. You understand?" The man's lips curled in a faint smile. "I understand." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small pouch of metal coins, linked together as he tossed them onto the seller's table. The alien looked at the coins, then at the man, then at the girl. After a long pause, it shrugged and pressed a button on the cage. The door slid open with a hiss. The man stepped inside, took off his coat, and placed it around the girl's shoulders. The fabric was warm, smelling faintly of engine oil and wind. She looked up at him, confused. "Come on," he said simply. The girl hesitated. Then, slowly, she stood. Her bare feet touched the stone, but now there was movement forward, away from the cage, away from the sign that said unsellable. The market watched in silence as the human led her away. Some shook their heads, others whispered warnings, but no one stopped him. Not yet. Far above, the night sky was deep and dark, and somewhere beyond it, the stars waited. It was not just the weight of the fabric. It was the strange feeling of being covered, protected for the first time in weeks. The girl kept her head down as the human guided her through the narrow path between stalls. The market smelled different now, the smoke and spice mixing with something sharper. Tension. Aliens turned to stare. A human buying a human. That was rare. That was dangerous. The man's grip on her arm was firm, but not cruel. He led her back toward the seller's table, where the deal had to be finished. The seller, a tall, stone-skinned alien named Vortok, leaned back in his chair, eyes glowing faintly in the red light. He did not look happy. "You are serious, human." Vortok rumbled, his voice like gravel grinding. "You pay for that?" The man ignored the insult. "How much?" Vortok tapped one clawed finger on the table, pretending to think. 2,000 credits. "That's too high." The man said calmly. "She's trouble. That makes her expensive." Trouble is always expensive. The man reached into his coat and placed a small pouch on the table. 500. Vortok barked out a laugh. 500. She's worth more than that to the wrong kind of people. The girl shifted uneasily, her eyes darting between them. She did not understand all the words, but she knew bargaining when she heard it. She had seen enough in the market to know that her fate was hanging by a thread. The man didn't flinch. "She's not worth more to anyone here. You've had her. For weeks. Nobody bought her. Nobody will." Vortok's glowing eyes narrowed. "And yet, you want her." The man's lips twitched into the faintest smile. "I'm not nobody." The alien leaned forward, his sharp teeth showing. Humans are strange, always thinking they can fix things, always thinking they can save someone. But this one, she's broken. The man reached for the pouch again, as if ready to walk away. "Then, I'll find someone else." Vortok's eyes flicked toward the girl. He knew bluff when he saw it, but he also knew the human was right. She had been a waste of space in his stall. She brought bad luck. People avoided the corner. Because of her? Her presence made the other animals harder to sell. The alien exhaled slowly. 800. Final offer. The man counted out the coins without hesitation and slid them across the table. Vortok's long fingers scooped them up. "Remember, human," he said with a slow grin. "No returns." The man's voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "I don't return what I keep." Vortok pressed a button on the side of the table and a dull chime echoed from the girl's cage. A tiny tracking chip, hidden in the corner, powered down. "She's free to leave," the alien said. The girl's breath caught. Free. The word didn't feel real. She glanced at the human, searching his face for a trick, but all she saw was the same calm, unreadable expression. Vortok waved them away, already calling out to another customer. The deal was done. They walked away from the stall. The crowd closed in behind them, but the man's steady pace cut a path through it. The girl kept close, holding the coat around her thin frame. After a while, she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. "Why, you buy me." The man didn't look at her. "Because you were for sale." She frowned. "Others see me. No buy." "Others didn't need you," he said simply. She was quiet for a moment. "You need me." The man glanced at her, his gray eyes unreadable. "Not yet." They passed food stalls, tool vendors, and weapon shops until they reached the outer edge of the market. The noise faded slightly here, replaced by the distant hum of the spaceport. Ships rose and fell like slow, heavy birds in the dark sky above. But not everyone was happy to see them leave. 3 figures stepped into their path. They were tall, thin, and dressed in dark armor. Their skin was pale and almost translucent, veins showing faintly beneath the surface. Their black eyes locked on the girl. "She belongs to us," the tallest one said in a cold, hissing voice. "She belongs to no one," the man replied. "You think a few coins make her yours?" The alien sneered. "You have no idea what she is, or what she can do." The girl's pulse quickened. She took a step back, but the man's hand stopped her. "Move," he said to the aliens. The tallest one smirked. "Or what? You'll fight us in the middle of the market." The man's other hand slipped into his coat. The movement was slow, deliberate. The aliens tensed. "You can try to take her," he said softly, "but you won't like how that ends." 4. A long moment, no one moved. The market around them seemed to hold its breath. Then the tall alien laughed quietly and stepped aside. "You won't keep her for long, human. You'll see." The man led the girl past them without looking back. When they reached the docking bay, the girl saw a small, worn ship waiting. Its name, painted in fading letters along the side, read Horizon. The ramp was down, and the warm glow of the interior lights spilled into the dark. The man stopped at the bottom of the ramp. "You have 2 choices," he said. "You can go back to the market and take your chances, or you can come with me." She looked at the market behind them, the noise, the smells, the shadows. Then she looked at the ship and the man who had bought her without asking her name. "I come," she whispered. The man nodded once. "Then, get inside." She stepped up the ramp, the coat still tight around her shoulders, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, the story was changing. Inside, the air smelled faintly of metal, oil, and something warm, maybe food. The girl stood in the middle of the narrow corridor, unsure if she should move. Everything here was strange. The soft hum under her feet, the blinking lights along the walls, the quiet that felt heavy after the chaos of the market. The man, still, silent, walked past her and headed toward the cockpit. "Sit," he said, without turning. She lowered herself onto a bench along the wall, clutching the coat tighter. Her bare toes curled against the cold floor. Outside, through a small window, she could still see the faint glow of the market in the distance. It looked far away already in the cockpit. The man sat down and began flipping switches. Lights came alive across the control panels, and the soft hum grew louder. The horizon was waking up. The girl leaned forward, watching. "We go now?" she asked softly. "Now," he replied. The ship's engines rumbled to life, and she felt a faint vibration through the bench. Her stomach tightened. She had never been in a ship before, not like this. The one she had seen belonged to guards or traders, always leaving without her. This time, she was inside. But as the horizon began to lift, a voice crackled through the ship's comms, sharp and commanding. "Unregistered vessel, power down. Immediately, dock control will board you for inspection." The man's jaw tightened. He flicked a switch, killing the audio. The girl's eyes widened. "They come." "They will try," he said. Still working the controls, a glance at the sensors showed a cluster of signals moving toward them from the market's edge. Not traders, not random ships. These were security craft, fast and armed. The horizon rose higher, breaking free from the docking bay's magnetic locks. The city sprawled beneath them, a maze of glowing streets and towering spires. Above, the night sky waited, but between here and there, the security ships closed in. The first one appeared ahead, sleek and silver, lights flashing red. A warning. Shots streaked past their bow. The girl flinched. "They want me." "They want to control you," the man corrected, pushing the throttle forward. The horizon surged ahead, the hum turning into a deep roar. Behind them, two more ships emerged, engines burning bright as they gave chase. The cum crackled again, a different voice this time, cold and familiar to the girl. "Return the asset." "Human, you are making a mistake." She froze. She knew that voice. It belonged to one of the pale-skinned aliens from the market, the ones who had stopped them earlier. Her hands clenched around the coat's sleeves. The man didn't respond. Instead, he angled the horizon toward the shadow of a massive cargo hauler drifting near the city's edge. Laser fire lit up the darkness. The first bolt slammed into their shields, making the ship shudder. The girl cried out, gripping the bench. The man's voice stayed calm. "Hold on." A T dove the ship lower, weaving between the hauler's support struts. A T, the pursuing ships, followed their engines, screaming in the thin atmosphere. Another shot grazed the horizon's left wing. Sparks spraying across the cockpit. The girl's breathing grew fast. Her mind raced back to the cage, to the cold stone floor, to the hopeless days she had escaped that she would not go back. A warning light blinked red on the control panel. Shields at 40%. The man muttered to himself. The lead security ship cut across their path, trying to block them in. The man's hands moved quickly, flipping a hidden switch near his seat. The horizon suddenly rolled to the side, passing dangerously close to the hauler's hull. The security ship hesitated, unwilling to risk a collision. The man used the moment to accelerate toward open space. The girl, gripping the edge of the bench, stared at him. "Why? Help me." "You don't know me." He kept his eyes on the controls. "I don't need to know you to know what's right." She blinked, unsure how to answer. No one had ever spoken to her like that. A sharp tone rang out. Another ship was approaching fast from above. This one was larger, heavier, and its weapons were charged. The man cursed under his breath. They called in a hunter. The girl's heart pounded. She could almost feel the cold hands reaching for her again. Then, something strange happened. Her fear sharpened into something else, a hot, pulsing energy deep inside her chest. She felt it spread to her arms, her fingertips tingling. The air in the cabin seemed to thicken. The man glanced over, sensing the change. "What are you doing?" "I don't know," she whispered. Outside, the hunter's ship fired, but the bolts never reached the horizon. Instead, they struck an invisible wall of shimmering light that formed around the ship. The man's eyes widened. "That's not my shield." The girl stared at her hands. The faint glow between her fingers was the same as the barrier outside. Her breath came fast. "I can stop them," she said. The security ships fired again, but every shot dissolved into the light. The man didn't waste the chance. He pushed the engines to their limit, the stars ahead stretching into long silver lines as they broke free into the dark void of space. The city shrank behind them. The market, The cages, the stone floor, all of it was gone. The girl let the energy fade. The shield dissolved, leaving only the hum of the ship and the cold quiet of space. She slumped back, exhausted. I didn't know I could do that. The man studied her for a long moment before turning back to the stars. Neither did they. That's why they wanted you alive. She shivered, realizing it wasn't over. Whoever those aliens were, they would not stop, but for now, she was free. The engines were no longer roaring, just a steady, low hum beneath the floor. Outside the window, space stretched in every direction, endless black, scattered with cold, distant stars. The girl sat on a narrow bench in the corner of the ship's main cabin. She had pulled the man's coat tightly around herself, as if afraid someone might take it away. Her knees were drawn up again, much like when she'd been in the cage. She didn't speak. The man moved between the cockpit and a small kitchen space, checking controls, pouring water into a metal cup. He seemed used to silence. Finally, he sat the cup on the table near her. "Drink," he said. She looked at it for a long moment before taking it. The water was cold and clear, the best she'd had in years. She drank greedily until the cup was empty. The man watched but didn't comment. When she was done, she set the cup down carefully. "You not ask my name," she said in a soft, hesitant voice. He didn't look up from the panel he was adjusting. "You didn't offer it." She frowned, unsure if that was a joke or not. "I don't remember my name." This made him pause. He turned toward her, leaning one arm on the wall. "You don't remember?" She shook her head. "They took me, long time ago. I was small. I forget." The man studied her face. "Who took you?" Her hands tightened on the coat. "The pale ones, from the market. But before them, others. They give me to them. Sold you," he said. She nodded slowly. "Sold, yes." He went back to the controls, his voice steady. "I'm Elias Gray, captain of the Horizon. You can stay here until we reach the next port." Her eyes flicked up. "Then, you sell me." Elias's gaze hardened. "No one sells you again." She searched his face, trying to read him. People didn't say things like that unless they wanted something. But his voice didn't sound like the others. Ours passed. The stars outside shifted slowly as the horizon moved through space. The girl curled up on the bench, her mind restless. Memories flickered, the stone cage, the alien voices, the feeling of fear pressing down like a heavy blanket. And then the shield. The light in her hands. She had never done that before. She turned toward Elias. "What happened to me?" "In the ship." "The light." "You tell me," he said, not looking away from the controls. "I don't know. I feel heat. Then I see the light." Elias leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "That's not something normal. Not for humans. Not for most aliens either." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That's why they want me." "Probably," he said. "Power like that is worth a lot to the wrong people." They fell into silence again. Elias moved to the kitchen and brought out a small tray, a plate with something steaming. He set it on the table in front of her. "Eat." The smell made her stomach twist with hunger. She hesitated only for a second before eating quickly, almost too quickly. Elias watched. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" She swallowed hard. "I don't remember." When she was done, she sat back, her eyes half closed. For the first time in years, her belly was full. But she couldn't relax. Not completely. She looked at the captain again. "You help me?" "Why?" His gaze was steady. "Because you needed help. That's all. That's all." She didn't believe him. Not yet. But she didn't push. The ship's quiet was broken by a soft beeping from the console. Elias walked over and checked the display. His jaw tightened. The girl tensed. "What is it?" "Long-range scan," he said. "Something's following us." Her heart skipped. "Them could be," he said. He tapped a few keys, switching off the display. "Doesn't matter. We're not stopping." Later, as the lights in the cabin dimmed, Elias showed her a small sleeping area. The bed was narrow but clean. "You can stay here," he said. She stood in the doorway, Clee looking at the bed like it was something strange. "This is mine." For now, she stepped inside slowly, running her fingers over the blanket. It was soft, too soft. It felt unreal. Elias stood in the doorway for a moment longer. "Get some sleep. We'll talk more in the morning." She nodded, but she didn't lie down until he had gone. When she finally curled up on the bed, she stared at the wall in the dim light. Her mind would not rest. Who was she before the cages? Before the pale ones? Why couldn't she remember her own name? And what was that power inside her? She pressed her hands together, trying to feel it again, that strange heat that had saved them. But nothing came. Only the cold metal of the ship and the soft hum of the engines. Somewhere out there, in the darkness, someone was following, and she knew, deep inside, that the market had only been the beginning. The next morning, on the horizon wasn't really morning at all, just the slow shift of the ship's lights from dim blue to warm yellow. Simulating dawn. The girl woke to the hum of the engines and the faint smell of something cooking. She sat up slowly, blinking away the strange dream she'd had running through a dark hallway. Voices chasing her, and that same heat in her chest trying to break free. She pulled the captain's coat around herself again and stepped out of the small sleeping cabin. Elias was in the kitchen area, heating a pan on a narrow metal stove. He glanced up at her. "You sleep?" "A little," she said quietly. He didn't press for more. Instead, he slid a plate toward her. "Eat." She sat, eating in silence for a while. He watched her, not unkindly, but with the same thoughtful look he'd worn since the market. When she was halfway through, he finally asked, "Do you remember anything else?" Before the market, she froze for a second, then put her fork down. Her eyes drifted toward the floor. "Some things." "Tell me." Her voice was low, almost like she was afraid the words might wake something she didn't want to remember. "I was small, maybe 6 or 7. I lived on a place. Not here, not like this. A planet." Elias asked. She nodded. "It had grass, real grass, green. The air was warm. There were other people, like me, human." "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "One night, ships came. Not big warships, smaller, fast. They landed near the houses. Men and women shouted. Someone told me to hide. I ran under the floor of our house." Her eyes unfocused as she spoke, like she was watching the memory play in front of her. "I heard noise. Boots, breaking things. Then, someone pulled me out, not human. Skin pale, eyes black. They put me on their ship." I screamed. "They didn't care." Elias leaned forward. "The pale ones." She nodded. "They took me to a place, a big building, cold, bright lights everywhere. They did things." "What things?" She hesitated, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. "Tests, needles, machines. They wanted me to do something. I didn't know how." "Do what?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Make the light." Elias's eyes narrowed, like the shield. "Yes, but I couldn't." "Not then. They got angry. They said I was broken." Her hands trembled slightly as she went on. "They kept me for years, tried again and again. Sometimes they hurt me. Sometimes they just left me alone in a dark room. I stopped counting the days. Then One day, they told me I was no good. They gave me to someone else, a trader, the one at the market. Elias asked. She nodded. He said no one would buy me. He laughed. Elias's jaw tightened. But he didn't interrupt. She looked at him then, her eyes searching his face. You believe me? Yes, he said, without hesitation. Why? Because I've seen the pale ones before. They don't take anyone for no reason. And they don't let go unless they think you're useless. Her brow furrowed. So, I am useless. He shook his head. No, you made that shield. You saved us. That's not useless. She wanted to believe him, but the words felt too heavy to hold. They sat in silence for a moment before she asked, Why were you at the market? Elias leaned back, folding his arms. Trading. Looking for engine parts? I wasn't looking for trouble, and you found me. He gave a small, almost tired smile. Trouble usually finds me. The console in the cockpit beeped softly. Breaking the moment, Elias stood and walked over. A small red icon pulsed on the scanner, faint, but steady. He muttered under his breath. The girl stood. They follow? Maybe, he said. It's a long-range signal. Could be them, could be someone else, but it's sticking with us. Her stomach nodded. If they catch us, they take me back. Elias turned to her, his voice steady. They won't catch us. You sound sure. I am. She watched him for a long moment. She wanted to ask more, why he was helping, why he wasn't afraid of the pale ones. But the words stayed trapped in her throat. Instead, she said, If they come, I can try again. With the light. Elias's eyes lingered on her. Like, he was weighing whether to tell her something. Don't push it. Power like that, it's not free. It takes something from you. She didn't understand, but she nodded. Hours later, she sat alone in the cabin while Elias worked in the engine room. She stared at her hands, flexing her fingers, trying to remember exactly how the light had felt. It was like holding a storm. Like every nerve in her body had woken up at once. It had been terrifying. And yet, in that moment, she had felt more alive than ever. She whispered to herself, Who am I? The hum of the engines gave no answer. In the cockpit, Elias checked. The scanner again. The red icon was closer now. Not dangerously close. Not yet, but close enough to make his gut tighten. He had a feeling this wasn't just about her. The pale ones didn't give up, and neither did he. The horizon had been drifting quietly. For hours, Elias sat in the cockpit, eyes fixed on the scanner. That red blip had been shadowing them since the girl told her story. It didn't move away. It didn't slow down. It simply followed. The girl sat in the co-pilot seat this time, hugging the coat tighter. They're closer. She asked. Yes, Elias said. His voice was calm, but his hands gripped the controls a little tighter. How close? Close enough. She stared at the scanner, at the tiny red dot moving behind them. It felt like a heartbeat, steady and patient. They're not going to stop, she whispered. They think I won't either, Elias replied. Let's prove them wrong. His hands moved fast, flipping switches. The hum of the horizon's engines deepened, and she felt the ship surge forward. Through the viewport, the stars began to stretch as they accelerated, but the red blip didn't fall behind. It grew larger, her stomach twisted. They're faster than us. Elias glanced at her, his jaw tight. They're better armed, too, which means we don't fight them head-on. We lose them. He pushed the throttle, diving the ship toward a wide asteroid belt ahead. From a distance, it looked like a slow-moving storm of rock and shadow, each piece spinning in silence. Won't they follow? She asked. They'll try, he said. And if they do, they'll regret it. The horizon plunged into the asteroid field. Massive. Chunks of rock drifted around them, some as small as houses, others big enough to hide a city. Elias weaved between them with practiced skill, the ship's hull groaning under the sharp turns. Behind them, a flash of light, the Pale One's ship had entered the field. The girl gripped the seat. Why? Why do they want me so much? Because? You're something they can't control, Elias said without looking at her. And people like that scare them. She didn't know if that was true, but she wanted it to be. The first shot came without warning. A bolt of bright energy streaked past their hull, slamming into a nearby asteroid. The rock exploded into smaller fragments, spinning wildly. Elias jerked the controls, dodging the debris. "They're not afraid to shoot in here," she said. "They're hoping we'll crash before they have to board us." Another shot grazed their shields, making the cabin lights flicker. Elias scanned the field ahead. "See that?" He pointed to a cluster of massive asteroids locked together, forming a shadowed pocket. "We hide there." The horizon dove between the rocks, slipping into the dark pocket where the light from the stars barely reached. Elias cut the engines to a low idle. The girl held her breath, listening to the silence. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a shadow passed over them. The Pale One's ship drifted slowly by, scanning the field. "They don't see us," she whispered. "Not yet," Elias murmured. But the pale ship stopped. It hovered, as if it could smell them. Searchlights swept over the rocks. The beam passed just meters from the horizon's hull. The girl's chest tightened. The light drifted away. The pale ship moved forward again. Elias exhaled. "All right, while they're ahead of us, he didn't finish." Another blip appeared on the scanner from the other side of the asteroid field. A second pale ship. "They knew you'd hide," Elias muttered. "They're boxing us in." The girl's hands began to tremble. "What do we do?" Elias's eyes were already scanning the asteroid map. "We go through?" "Through what?" He pointed. "The gap between the twin giants." She looked. Two huge asteroids locked in a slow, deadly dance, spinning around each other with only a narrow space between them. "That's too small," she said. "For most ships, yes," Elias said, already firing the engines. "But not for us." The horizon shot out of the hiding spot, the sudden motion making the girl's stomach flip. The pale ship ahead noticed and swung around, firing. Bolts of energy lit up the darkness, slamming into the rocks around them. Elias weaved between the blasts, the ship shuddering with each near miss. The gap between the twin asteroids loomed closer, and flea skews. And tighter. The girl's breath came fast. "We can't." "Yes, we can." The asteroids turned slowly, but their size made the movement feel huge, like two massive jaws closing. Elias timed the spin, pushing the horizon forward at the last second. The ship scraped through the gap, shields sparking from the force. For a moment, they were in shadow, and then they burst into open space on the other side. The pale ships were gone. The girl slumped back in her seat, trying to catch her breath. We made it. For now," Elias said. "But they'll keep hunting." She stared at him. "Why not give me to them? You'd be safe." His eyes flicked toward her. "Safe isn't worth it if it means living like them." For a long time, they sat in silence, the stars sliding past. But deep down, she knew this wasn't over. The Pale Ones had ships. They had resources. They would find them again. And when they did, she would have to decide whether to run again or to fight. The horizon sailed through deep space, its engines humming softly, leaving the asteroid field and the Pale Ones far behind. For the first time in days, the scanners showed nothing chasing them. No red blips. No enemy ships closing in. Still, Elias didn't relax. He sat in the pilot's chair, eyes scanning the endless black ahead. The girl sat in the co-pilot seat, knees tucked under the coat. She kept glancing at the stars, as if they might suddenly change into something dangerous. "They'll come again," she said quietly. Elias didn't look at her. "Yes? Why?" "I'm not special." "You made a shield that could stop ship weapons," he said. "That's special." She didn't answer. She wasn't sure if she believed him. A soft tone from the console broke the silence. Elias checked the reading. A navigation beacon, old but still working. A small station floated far ahead, spinning slowly in the dark. Its lights were dim, like it had been abandoned for years. "Where is that?" she asked. "An outpost," Elias said. "Used to be a refueling station. It's off the main routes now. Quiet. Safe. Safe as anything out here." They approached the station carefully. No other ships in sight. No transmissions. Just the slow spin of the metal structure, its surface marked with scars from old meteor strikes. The horizon docked with a soft metallic thud. When the airlock opened, the station's air was stale, but breathable. Dim lights flickered along the corridor. "Stay close," Elias said, stepping out first. The girl followed, her bare feet silent against the cold floor. The station was quiet. Too quiet. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by their movements. They reached an old storage room where Elias began looking through crates. He pulled out a small box and tossed it to her. "What's this?" she asked. "Clothes might fit you better than my coat." Inside were simple gray trousers, a shirt, and boots. She held them for a moment before slipping into a side room too. Change. When she returned, Elias was checking a large holomap on the wall. "Better?" he asked, without looking up. She nodded. The clothes felt strange, not because they were new, but because they were hers now. Elias tapped the map. "We can't go back toward the main lanes, too many eyes. We head for the fringe. Fewer ships, fewer rules. The fringe." He glanced at her. "Edge of known space. You could disappear there if you want." She hesitated. "And you?" "I have jobs out there. Cargo runs. Odd work. Would I stay with you?" "That's up to you." She thought about it. She could walk away now. Find a different ship, a different path. But the thought of being alone in the vast dark made her chest tighten. "I'll stay," she said finally. Elias gave a single nod, like he had expected it. They loaded what they could from the station: food packs, water filters, spare fuel cells. While Elias worked, the girl wandered into another room. It was an old crew lounge, dusty and dim. On one wall, faded photos were still pinned. Images of people smiling, holding cups, standing on alien worlds. Humans, aliens, all together. She touched one photo gently. A group of children, human and alien, sitting in a circle. For a moment, she imagined herself among them. A memory flickered. Laughter. Warm light. Her name, her name. She froze, the sound echoing in her mind. A voice calling to her. Not the pale ones, not fear, but something warm and safe. She whispered it aloud. Lyra Elise's voice came from behind her. "What?" She turned. "My name. It's Lyra." He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, Lyra, let's get moving." Back on the horizon, she sat in the co-pilot seat again. As they undocked from the station, the stars opened up before them. The vast unknown stretching in every direction. Elias adjusted the controls. "From here on, it's your choice where you go. But if you stay, you learn. You pull your weight." She gave a small smile. "Deal." The horizon jumped into faster-than-light travel. The stars became long silver lines, the black turning into silver. A tunnel of light. Lyra leaned back, watching the endless stream. She felt the hum of the engines, steady and strong. For the first time in years, she didn't feel trapped. She felt like she was moving toward something. Elias glanced at her. The pale ones won't stop. They'll try to track you again. Maybe next time they'll send more ships. Then we'll be ready, Lyra said. His eyebrow lifted slightly. We? She nodded. You helped me. I'll help you. Elias almost smiled. Fair enough. Somewhere in the dark, beyond the tunnel of light, danger was waiting. But so was freedom. And Lyra, for the first time in her life, was ready to fight for it. The horizon flew on, carrying them deeper into the unknown, where their story was just beginning.